Are you there, Sydney?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Ooh, okay. So Josh wanted me to come on real fast and explain to you my theory about 9/11. Do you want to hear it?
Go on.
Sure, of course.
Someone's cough is contagious.
Is it a theory or a fact?
It's a theory.
Okay.
My theory is that 9/11 was mostly about Lyme disease.
Lyme disease?
Yeah.
As in what you get from a tick?
Yeah. So if you want to know why, it's kind of long and complicated, but I can give you the short version.
Well, but hey, Poncho, first off, remember we went over that one day where when I was looking at when I pulled up Lyme disease and we were looking at those pictures, and they were a bunch of cartoon pictures,
right?
And I was telling you that I don't think that it comes just from the tick,
right?
It doesn't.
Yeah.
They sprayed the Gulf War troops with it. It was called Gulf War syndrome.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you're jumping your gun on your theory. Explain. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, you're interested?
Yeah, go on.
Thanks. Okay.
Of course.
So,
I wouldn't ask you to explain it if I wasn't interested.
there are probably other reasons for 9/11 too. So I give it like, 30, 40% for other reasons. But I think a majority of it was about Lyme disease. And the reasoning for that is because I've been uncovering this huge thing about something called Lyme disease, which I actually prefer to call it what it really is, which is genetically modified syphilis. So syphilis was the plague of our past. And when it was fully investigated and fully studied, and even studied on those black men in the Tunguska experiment, or however you say that name.
Yeah,
You
Tunguska.
know about that one? Yeah. Okay, so
Tuskegee.
they know freaking everything about syphilis. Syphilis is a degenerative disease. They call it degenerative because it degenerates parts of your body. And it degenerates it piece by piece, but not always in order because people have different weaknesses in their bodies. So they actually have old clinical journals where they will describe syphilis like this: a case of Parkinson's syphilis, or a case of muscular atrophy syphilis. And I was going over these old journals, and the doctor was saying in there, syphilis was called something like the great imitator, right? And the doctor was saying, you cannot be diagnosed with any disease until you have ruled out any form of syphilis. So now fast forward, they cure syphilis, science looks great. It's one of science's crowning achievements. They get the mold on the bread, and then they get the penicillin, and they start antibiotics, and it cures syphilis. And now medical science, rules everything and tortures animals and everything because it was like their crowning achievement. But it's my theory that they genetically modified it and now call it Lyme disease, and it's hidden as a hidden plague. And we also call it diabetes, Parkinson's, ALS, Crohn's.
All diseases, you're saying, are syphilis?
Basically, almost all the diseases, because Lyme is nothing but a syphilis molecule that has, originally when I first started studying this, they were saying it is the only living organism on Earth that uses manganese to replicate, not iron. It does not need iron to replicate. And the immune system, to starve off pathogens, will deplete you of iron and make you anemic. And that's how it will starve out the pathogens, but it doesn't happen on this one. People just become anemic. In fact, 1 in 5 women is anemic. Very oddly, because I don't think our bodies were really meant to be sick. But so now they're claiming that it is only the first known organism to use manganese to replicate, but it wasn't like that, and I've never heard of any other organisms that use manganese to replicate. So that is why people started thinking, and it's not just me that thinks it's a genetically modified form of syphilis. So if they understand everything about syphilis and they can classify us with different diseases when all we have is different symptoms, they can create drugs that will keep you in perpetual addiction to them to keep you alive, but they'll never fix
The
disease.
problem.
Yeah, right. So you've got people addicted to the drug lords who I think rule the world, and they're called the pharmaceutical industries. So what did we do after 9/11? We went to Afghanistan. Why did we go to fucking Afghanistan? Because they wanted the heroin, because Afghanistan was the highest heroin country in the world. What is heroin used for? Pharmaceuticals, because they need the pharmaceuticals to keep their money. The drug lords need it to keep their money going because they have us infected with this shit. And then I looked back and I'm like, what was Vietnam? Vietnam was also the highest heroin producing country in the world at that time. So I think it's called like the Golden Crescent and the Golden Triangle. And I believe the crescent was Vietnam and triangle is Afghanistan. So then we're seeing like these videos of the troops guarding heroin fields. Josh said he actually has met people from there, not just videos, but soldiers that came back and was like, yeah, we were guarding heroin fields. You met 2 of them, huh?
Yes.
And I think, in my opinion, that what we call Lyme, and I kind of hate calling it Lyme because it's like, that's their cover story and that's what makes it seem so different. And they have like this really ridiculous story about a tick and everything. And it's complete BS. And if you look back on the soldiers in the Gulf War, they were sprayed with something. They kept saying, we got sprayed with something. And then they all came back with what was called Gulf War syndrome. Well, if you look them up now and look them up with, you know, put in Gulf War syndrome Lyme disease or put in Gulf War syndrome fibromyalgia, they all came down with the different disease categories of Lyme, which one of the top ones was fibromyalgia because it'll get in and eat your nerves out. And interestingly enough, the people with fibromyalgia, they were classified as hypochondriacs at first. Everyone was told that they're nuts and
Imagining it.
yeah, they were completely marginalized. And I think they just didn't want anyone really looking into this because now it's considered a real thing. But for years and years, it was like, oh, well, your body's on fire. You know, I got told by doctors, because I'm pretty sure I came down with Lyme, and I was told I'm perfectly healthy. The doctors think I'm perfectly healthy. I'm healthy as an ox. And I'm like, no, I'm not. There's something wrong in my body. I am healthy, and that's why I know. And I love being healthy, and I tell people I'm healthy. You're a fucking idiot if you think I'm a hypochondriac. And but I noticed sensations in my nerves and things that weren't right. And I've been studying Josh, and because I'm kind of like do a lot of natural healing stuff. And just studying Josh has been really interesting. Hearing about his symptoms, it's helped me place so many of the pieces together in the grand picture of how our bodies work, how I've actually come to the level where I feel like I'm hopeful that there's natural ways to manage what they're doing, and then I'm hopeful that we're going to come towards a cure. I think I might even have my finger on a drug. It's an old tuberculosis drug
Right. But
that
so,
I'm hoping might work because.
what does this have to do with the big double?
9/11, yeah.
Okay, so what happened in 9/11? 9/11 brought us to Afghanistan.
For the heroin.
I forgot to mention to these guys right here that the largest users of heroin in the world are the pharmaceutical industry. They use it to make their medicines and painkillers.
Yeah, for the heroin, for the.
Oh, that was so easy for you to do that. That was so easy.
It was for the pharmaceutical drug lords because I feel that they rule our world. Who do we give all our money to? We work enslave. If you come down with any kind of disease, like I know what they're going to classify me with. As soon as it's chomped through me, they're going to classify me with Parkinson's. But I don't think they'll ever get to because I'm fighting it.
Well, you got to keep in mind that the people who are the doctors, they're just men. So, like, they might have medical knowledge, but they're not, they don't know what they're necessarily talking about. All they have is their best guess.
Yeah, men or women. But
Yeah,
actually, I feel that most of the doctors don't know. But there's a growing number of people who are suspicious. And actually, Caroline, who's in the medical profession and she works in a hospital, she's extremely suspicious. And she was even telling us the other day, she was like, we don't do shit. We just treat symptoms. We don't cure anything. You know, and I was saying, I know, like, what the medical field is really good for, in my opinion, is emergencies. You get into a car wreck, you know, you want an ER specialist for sure by your side, but when it comes to healing, they're not really like healers, you know, they're symptom treaters. And I
Right.
think,
That's all they get taught when they go to school, just how to treat the symptoms, like you were saying.
yeah, yeah, but watch what happens when some of these doctors who think they have ALS or multiple sclerosis or something, you know, start suspecting that they have Lyme. And what I like to tell people is that even if you want to believe in the diseases, and that's fine, maybe they do exist. I don't know how much is Lyme.
My
I suspect it's all Lyme, but if you want to believe in them as real diseases aside from Lyme, great. But it's well known. They even admit that a lot of those diseases are misdiagnosed Lyme disease. And because when syphilis was called the great imitator, Lyme is called like the great pretender or something like that. They practically use the same words. And what I did was when Josh was in the hospital, I sent Sue, who's his mom's best friend, and she's been felled with something. I sent her an article about this actor, a real famous actor from her time, I think. And he had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And he took antibiotics, and guess what? His brain came back. His memory came back. So they realized he'd been misdiagnosed with Lyme. And as I was telling Josh, you know, Michael J. Fox, who was diagnosed with Parkinson's, he was actually diagnosed with Lyme before. Then they switched it on him. Then they took it back and they're like, oh, no, okay, no, you have Parkinson's. So I believe he has Lyme as well. So even if you want to believe the diseases are real diseases, everybody admits that, like, we don't know how much, 50%, 45%, 70%, they're misdiagnosed cases. So when I say that 9/11 was about Lyme, it's because it shows there's a direct correlation between the pharmaceutical companies and the heroin and going after a heroin-rich country, which wasn't even involved. Like, they say Saudi Arabia was the one that caused 9/11. 14 of the attackers or something were Saudi Arabian, but we were like,
Yeah, that's the whole magician trick. Watch the right hand while you see what we do with the left, and it's
right?
Afghanistan. And
But keep in mind,
there's also a pipeline too that goes. That's if you follow the pipeline to where was all the trouble they were having in Russia, Ukraine, right? Up north. If you draw a line straight from Ukraine down to the Gulf or wherever, it goes right through Afghanistan. It's all
yeah, and there could have been some other reasoning. I'm sure it wasn't just one reason, but I think Lyme was a giant piece of the puzzle. And I've been snapping. What's been crazy is because Josh has been talking with me about it like nonstop, because once I gave him the theory, he said he was connecting it with other things he'd learned as he was studying what was happening to him. And because eating the pancreas is like one of the things that it will do, like it just loves to do that. On certain people, if you have a weak pancreas, it'll devour that right away.
I think all disease is man-made. I really do. I don't buy. I think that whatever diseases we're dealing with, I think they've been trying to fucking use disease to control population for the longest time.
That gets me into another part of my theory that's really far out there, and I have absolutely no proof for, but it's that the possibility that this may be an old age disease. Like, it's what ages us and kills us. Because you talk to people with Lyme, they'll say weird things like this. My hands have aged 100 years since the symptoms hit, and that was only like 4 weeks ago. And they're shaking, and it's like, that's why they could call it degenerative for so long, because it does degenerate parts of your body, and that's what they call syphilis too. But actually it's not, because what I was telling Josh I love is happening right now is that regular people who believe in the regular medical system as healers, they're starting to ask questions like this. Well, why are the kids getting old age diseases? Why are the kids getting diabetes? Why are the kids getting Parkinson's and autism? And I love it when they ask that, because it's kind of like a little piece of their brain is starting to open up. Like, something's wrong here. This was supposed to be an old age degenerative disease. And the only reason they could get away with that for so long, in my opinion, is because it hits older people more because you're just weaker at that point. And it will fail you like a large percentage of the population in their 40s, 50s, and then goodbye, your 60s, you're like everybody's getting something. But the kids who are stronger don't get it as much as easily, but enough kids were getting it and are getting stuff that they're like, wait a minute. You know, when this first really started opening up for me, I had gone to lunch with these two elderly ladies, and they were probably like in their 70s, nearing 80s, and they were eating with me. And they were like, Sydney, when we were young, we didn't have all these diseases and we ate whatever we wanted. And I was thinking about it because I was like, you know, what was grandma's cooking? Grandma's cooking was freaking a cup of white flour, which you're not supposed to use, a cup of 3 cups of white sugar, a bunch of bacon grease and lard. You mix that together and make cookies. Like, it was disgusting, you know, they just used anything they wanted. And I was like, they're right. Grandma's cooking was always like all this stuff you're not supposed to eat. And they were telling me, it's like I didn't want to hear it. It took me a few days to digest because I had to listen to them, but I was like kind of fighting it. And then I was like, so it's something, that's when I stopped believing in the diet wars, even though I'm vegan, but I'm doing it for animal compassion. I was like, I think maybe it's possible that the diet wars are all a scam. And because if you think about it, if you eat meat and you get sick, they tell you it's your fault. It's because you're eating meat. You have to become a vegetarian. You fucking idiot. But then the same thing happens to vegetarians. So if a vegetarian gets sick, they're like, it's because you have no protein, you idiot. You have to start eating meat. And like, no matter which way it falls, you get blamed because it's your fault. And what a better system than to blame you instead of look at maybe it's not your fault.
And no accountability for their shit. Like, what the fuck is that? They don't have any accountability?
That's
And
because
then
that's
they
why
can
they're the
turn some
winners.
money off of us because then you have all these special diets that they're selling and they make money that way too.
Yeah, and you just make more and more money for the scoundrels. So that's the whole name of the game nowadays, right?
It's more money for them. It's more blame for all of us, no matter where you land. And
Like, they're so far into winning right now that, like, yeah, they're pretty much almost won. Not quite, but almost.
The craziest thing about it is, like, as I'm going, all the puzzle pieces are snapping in place. Like, the more I learn, the more puzzle pieces snap in place, and they aren't unsnapping. They're not going somewhere else. They're still snapping.
Welcome to Poncho Pete. That's what happens here.
You know?
I would like to add something. I don't know. I have a different perspective. Like, I don't believe that you can actually modify things. So your whole theory is, you know, probably smash on, except for the genetically modified part. That's the only part I would throw a wrench at, just because of me. I'm a Bible believer. I don't believe that you can create anything new. So, like, it already.
Nothing new under the sun, Albert.
All I'm saying is, like, so instead of saying that it's a genetically modified syphilis, I would
You
say
think it's the real syphilis?
it's just the same strain of. It's just different strains of.
Well, I mean, that could
right.
be possible that it is just syphilis and that the cure
It's
isn't
all
real.
just different strains, right? Because, I mean, I'm sure you've seen videos of those, like on the Discovery Channel, where, like, there's the ants. They get into the wrong kind of fungus, they eat it, and then it brain mind controls them and stuff. You know, like all that kind of stuff. This is
Well,
one.
in your theory, then that would mean that syphilis never disappeared. They just learned how to manage it, and they claimed a win over it with fake penicillin. That's not even.
So you see, it still works. It's just slightly changing it so that you're not giving them the power of being like, we can create whatever we want. It's like,
well,
no.
here's
Well,
the thing.
how if I could just say, like, how about just in a very simple way that they could, like, take a part of syphilis and take a part of something else and kind of they know the rules of how they work, and then you can just kind of.
That's my challenge.
Crossbreeding with
Here's the thing, though, is
Something
that
like that, yeah.
I actually found, I was researching, I found 2 things. One is called bacteriophages, which is a really interesting topic. I haven't even really talked about that yet with Josh. And then the other one is this doctor who I actually emailed, and I have his email sitting waiting for me because I'm kind of scared of it. But he had discovered that an old tuberculosis drug called PSA was curing Parkinson's. And I had read up on some articles saying that they were testing Parkinson's people for Lyme, and 100% of them were coming back with Lyme. You can't really trust the Lyme test, though, because what happened is the CDC they fucked with the test, because originally the test was coming back saying 100% of people were infected with Lyme, and they didn't like that. So they were like, you got to mess with the test. So now the Lyme test is well known to be a bunch of shit, and it doesn't even work. It gives you false positives and false negatives and blah, blah, blah. So anyways, this guy with the tuberculosis drug, he was curing people of Parkinson's by giving them this old drug that was meant for Parkinson's. And so I researched what the drug does, and it actually reduces manganese from your body. And the Lyme uses manganese to replicate. They're claiming that Lyme is the only known living organism on Earth that doesn't use iron to replicate, it uses manganese. So this drug would be like kind of like acting like your immune system, which normally makes you anemic and depletes you of iron when you're infected, which I found very interesting because I was thinking, you know how 1 in 5 women is anemic? And it doesn't matter if you eat meat or don't eat meat. My mom eats meat and she's anemic. I was anemic and I didn't. Now I'm not and I don't. It's something else. But when your body is infected, it immediately goes anemic. It's actually a sign of infection. And you can even look it up. You can look up infection anemia, and they reversed the word. They call it anemia infection to try to hide the fact that there's another kind of anemia out there caused by infection, and that they call it the second most prevalent form of anemia. Like, they don't ever tell people, oh yeah, you know, you might not be anemic because of your iron levels. You might be anemic because you're infected with something. So these little pieces are all like falling in place. And another thing I told Josh I really wanted to research, we're kind of on this path now because he's going gangbusters with me on it. And he was like, I was talking about Parkinson's and the Parkinson syphilis. And Josh was like, wait, who is Parkinson? And what did he discover? And we're saying, you know what, we're trying to find the smoking gun because on this theory, like, if Parkinson was someone who dealt with syphilis, then like, boom, that's like a huge smoking gun right there.
Right. Well, that's kind of what I was just thinking just now as you're saying this. Like you said earlier that this is according to them, the great mimicker. Well, the great mimicker of what?
Exactly. Exactly, right?
What is it mimicking?
It's mimicking its own damn self because it's the symptoms of itself. Yeah, I find it.
I mean, if you did have a disease like that, it's not that far-fetched that you could like split it up into like a zillion different ailments and be like, you know, I'm gonna make some bank off it.
What I told Wendell, and Wendell really freaked out over this because we were at the Salton Sea and we were hanging out in the Airbnb, and I was explaining it to Wendell, and I said, Wendell, this is why you will meet someone and they're like, oh, I have pancreatitis. Oh, now I have diabetes. Oh, then they get diagnosed with MS. Oh, you know, they get diagnosed with one thing, and then within 6 months they have another thing, and then within 4 months they have lesions on their brain, so suddenly they have ALS, and then they have fibromyalgia. And you'll meet these people that have they have like categorized with like 5-6 diseases, like boom, 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 boom. And his eyes widened and he went, oh, is that why that happens? And I was like, yes, Wendell, it's the same freaking disease. It's just because now it's chewing through a different part of their body. The symptoms are coming out in a different way. I realized that when I was watching my friend Christine, because she started out with diabetes, or no, she started out with fibromyalgia. Suddenly, she had kidney failure. Then she had diabetes. Then she had MS. And she had lesions on her brain. And I was like, Christine, you have Lyme disease. How can you have 20 billion diseases at once? This is one disease. It's presenting itself in different ways. It chewed through your pancreas. Now it got your kidneys. So now it's going after your spine.
So what do you do? Like, I know somebody that has fibromyalgia. Like,
well,
what should I tell them?
I would definitely at least tell them kind of what I've been saying. The thing is that some people won't listen because they believe in the doctors so much, and I just have to turn away from those people because it's their life and their body. You know, I try to tell people, I've been trying to tell people for a long time, we're in a plague, we're in the middle of a plague, and it's hidden, and you don't know you're in it. It could be in the vaccines. I think it's what causes autism. It's definitely linked to autism. And so what I do is I just tell people and let them start on their own path, but I think that they should start attacking it as Lyme. And the problem with Lyme people is that they're left completely on their own, and it's real hard because we don't know the cure yet, but there's people who manage it and or who claim that they feel cured and they're healthier than before. My path with it, what happened with me is I was very, very healthy. I was the healthiest person I knew, and I was really a jerk about it. And I would just tell people all the time, like, I'm super healthy. That's why when they were telling me I'm a hypochondriac, I'm like, you're joking. Like, I'm a jerk about this. And people would always say, you have so much energy. Okay, so one day I was really, really healthy. I went to sleep. And the next morning, I woke up like I was in a different body. I went to the emergency room. All my limbs were on fire. I tingling up and down, paresthesia. I was twitching. My muscles were twitching, and it was just craziness. And they sent me home. They're like, you're a hypochondriac, just get over it. And I'm like, no, there's something wrong with me. So from there, I kept telling the doctors, because I'm glad that they told me I was a hypochondriac, because it forced me to research it instead of believing their shit. And I started with natural cures, nasturtium leaves, all kinds of crap, okay, MSM. I tried everything. Magnesium. I went crazy on vitamins. I mean, I was just taking tons of vitamins. I upped my omega-3 like 1,000,000,000% because I was like, your nerves are made of myelin sheaths, which are composed of omega-3. So I went crazy on my omega-3. And then finally, I decided to go their course, and I found a doctor who prescribed me antibiotics. They said, you know, I'm just going to try the antibiotics. What if it works? The doctor had me on 3 months of antibiotics. I couldn't barely move, and then wanted to do more months. And I was like, I can't do the antibiotics anymore. I'm like, my digestion was wrecked. This is why when I met Josh, like, I think we kind of connected because I really understood his health problems, even though I don't think he knew that I really fully understood yet. And so after that, I went natural. I said, you know, I'm going to do hydrogen peroxide. I'm going to do ozone therapy. So I went to a clinic in LA, and they were giving me ozone, which cures herpes, by the way, everyone. So you should look that up, ozone therapy and herpes. So they were giving me like tons of ozone. And after my first ozone treatment, I do have to say, I went in there like I was in hell, and I was very suicidal, and I was like, my mental state was not good. And there was a lady in there, she said, she looked at me straight in the eyes, and she said, you're going to feel better after the ozone. I remember the stage I was in, and it's going to clear your brain. And I didn't believe her. I just started crying. And I took the ozone in the IV, and the tingling went down just like maybe 40%, just for a little while. But it was that moment of like, something might work, you know, that I left the clinic like a different person. My brain fog lifted. I felt peace. I was so happy. I was like, I never forget that moment.
Is it ozone or more oxygen?
Ozone is like 3 oxygens.
So basically, it's just like a crap load of oxygen.
Yeah, it's like super oxygenation.
Okay, right.
And
Okay, fair enough.
There's a clinic here. They're actually not allowed to operate by the government as a clinic. So what they do is they operate as a test
Oxygen.
facility. They're operating as they're perpetually running a trial to see what the positive effects of ozone might be in the human body. But they
Don't they have oxygen bars in California?
Hyperbolic chambers and stuff for healing, aren't there?
But the government really, because of all the rumors of ozone curing Ebola and all that kind of stuff, they really don't like ozone treatments. So they try to keep a lid on that. So I did several months of ozone. I felt a lot better after that. Not fully. Then I started weird things like cinnamon oil. Now I've gotten completely away from the idea of killing anything, and I'm going towards the idea of regenerating my immune system and resetting myself back to when I was younger, when I was in
Yeah.
the dormant stage, right? So I do a lot, anything that's like anti-aging, like astrologus. I'm taking astrologus. I started with the kefir, which is why I was puking all weekend, because the kefir is like got tons of enzymes and probiotics, so it'll heal your gut. And they claim that 70% of your immune system is in your gut. And I've just been hearing from people saying things like, you know what cured me was like water kefir and hot yoga. There's people who think that if you do get really, really hot, that it'll help because it cooks at like 103 degrees. The Lyme, like, it dies like any bacteria would.
Now, don't you need to be careful with your gut and the bacteria that are in your gut? Because aren't there like hundreds of thousands of different bacteria that are supposed to be there to kill off other bacteria? They lay dormant in your gut. Am I correct about that?
Yes, and to kill off the candida, the yeast and stuff, which is why I feel that they did me a disfavor to give me the antibiotics for 3 months, because I came out like my stomach was bloated and I was always like I couldn't digest things and I was gassy all the time, and I'm like, there's something wrong with me now. Like it was always bad, but
It's too potent. Like they give you these antibiotics in a pill form, but like maybe you could get that naturally from somewhere else without having to take a pill.
Exactly.
well, whatever they did to me, it didn't cure the Lyme, and it just made things worse. And then now, guess what? They're claiming, they're coming out and they're saying that the antibiotics I took no longer, they're saying that they don't work for Lyme anyway.
Wow, that,
Yeah, I just basically took a bunch of like 3 months of.
they basically effectively lowered your immune system. That's what they did.
Yeah.
They tricked you into taking something that wouldn't help at all, but it would definitely lower your defenses.
But I've been slowly climbing out of it, and I'm telling you my journey and all the little things I did. And I did more than that. I took carnivora. I mean, when you're desperate, you're going to try a lot of different cures. I did baking soda. I did black seed oil and lemon, and I'm not even sure what's helped. Something's been helping. Like I'm totally
Baking soda.
baking soda at night. Yeah, I would take it in a glass. That's probably particularly important for diabetics.
I think it's probably helping more than you think.
Kidney failure people. And so I'm not sure what it was, but I've been slowly climbing back to I'm not perfect where I was before, but I was telling Josh, I feel like I'm nearing 80-90% from when I first got struck. I don't have the muscle twitches anymore. There's a lot of things that are slowly going away. And I'm just inspired by the people who say, I had it and I was healed, and you can too. Like it's possible somehow that we get so strong that our body goes back to the dormant when it was dormant. And like for most of us when we were a little bit younger. And other than that,
Shout out to our bodies, because they're fucking extraordinary things. God dang.
And I'm hoping for a real cure, not just like I'm hoping that soon, I'm thinking within the next 10 years we're going to have something, because there are literally just so many people out there now that are getting a hold of this, and I won't quit talking about it, because I'm like, you need to get on board with this, and because if it's not you, it's going to happen soon, or it'll be your friend or something like that, and more people are looking for the cure. So
what do you think they were doing with me back in the day? I mean, I don't remember too much of it. All I know is that I hated going, and the second they told me, like, do you want to do this anymore? I was like, no. But
what did you have to do?
What happened?
I'm sorry. What did you have to do?
They used to go and give me allergy shots. Like, every week I had to go and get these stupid freaking allergy shots, and they would just inject me with this crap. I didn't think I had any allergies or anything. They tried to give me glasses and all this other stuff. Like, I don't have any allergies to anything or any glasses. So what were they doing to me? Like, I don't need to use these things.
You know what's,
Probably destroying your immune system, man.
yeah,
And
you know,
destroying my vision.
yes, because you know what is really
Yeah.
interesting you said about the eyes? That syphilis causes eye degeneration, and actually, there is a big. It's known that when you get diabetes, your eyes degenerate. And Josh was actually telling me. You want to tell them what happened, Josh, when your eyes cleared up?
Yeah, so I started needing glasses when I was like 14 or 15. And then when I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was 17, I was put in the hospital with a blood sugar of like 970. And after like 3 days in the hospital, I woke up and it was weird because I was going to reach over for my glasses, but I could see everything in the room. And I thought that was cool. And then I like got up and I looked down the hallway and it was nuts because I could read the numbers on the clock from all the way across the hallway, and I didn't have my glasses on. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And there's actually been a couple times where for some reason my vision is cleared up and I won't need my glasses for like 2 or 3 days. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, there's a huge thing that shows that the vascular system is affected, and that could be what's causing a lot of eye degeneration. And that once your vascular system is healed up, then your eyesight just boom, it comes back.
No, they don't want us to see what's
Water
going on with
balance.
cars and shit, probably.
They just
Well,
put
you
you in
know,
the test. They're like, "Can you see this chart with F's on it?" It's like, "Yeah, I can." F's and E's and all these other, you know how they do when you take you to the eye doctor, stuff like that. It's like,
yeah.
why am I even here? Like, dude, I'm a kid. Like, I'm not even like you're telling me I need all this stuff. Like, the fuck? I need allergy
I
shots.
think
I'm telling you, like, I don't have any allergies. Like, I'm not allergic to like anything that I know. Like, I get stung by a bee. They're like, you're allergic to bees. It's like, oh well, I don't
well,
think so. Not really.
even if we still had some eye degeneration without this, think of the amount of eyeglasses sales that would drop and all the optometry that would
Oh
drop
my
if
god, yeah. See that
still.
again? It's for money again.
Yeah. I'm not even sure, like, I'm so
Money,
suspicious by this point that I'm not even sure if we would die that young. I almost feel like, they say in the Bible and that people
yeah,
lived three,
you
four
got
hundred
120 in you.
years, 500 years. What if that's what we're supposed to live? I mean,
Yeah, that
I,
is.
You know,
I think
Cindy, I think that's exactly what happened. And I don't think that when we were back in the day, I don't think that there was a age. You know, they always say that the age limit or whatever that we would live like was like 50 years old for women and like 45 for like the average age. I don't buy that shit at all.
yeah,
yeah,
total horseshit.
yeah. I think that they make us think that we're living longer now, but actually
Yes,
we may be living shorter because
blatantly attempting it,
everything
blatantly doing it.
I find it's like, wait a minute, that's like an old age symptom and it's caused by freaking syphilis.
Speaking of old age, you guys want to hear something crazy? When I was little, I actually got to meet my great great grandmother.
That's pretty cool.
My great grandma just died last year, and she was like 95. Like her mom died at like 90 something. So I mean, like, what
Dang.
the hell are they talking about that we're getting better? I look around and it's weird because everyone's like already crippled by the time they're 30. When I look around,
Yeah, totally. Indeed.
Yeah,
Why?
and that's
Why?
what I enjoy that's happening right now is a lot of people who are mainstream. Some part of their brain is getting triggered because they're like, wait a minute, you're 30. You shouldn't be like a crippled old person. Why is this happening to my 18-year-old? And the question in their mind that they always ask me is, why is this happening to the kids? It's like that one little part of their brain that's starting to wake up because they've been calling this a degenerative
Right.
disease
Yeah. There's
for so
definitely
long.
some shenanigans going around because like 90%, I'm making this number up, but like probably like 85, 90% of all the diseases we have today that are life threatening and like serious weren't even a problem like 100 years ago.
Yeah, and that's what the ladies were telling me. They were like, we had polio, we had tuberculosis. She was like, but we didn't have any of these other diseases. Like, we didn't have any of them. And
Yeah,
actually,
I didn't.
Josh,
I didn't notice any history books saying that, you know, like 30% of Napoleon's army felt, you know, they were all diabetic and they
Yeah,
couldn't.
they needed
Yep.
insulin.
Exactly. There's
Their
none of that
ticket
shit
was so
going on
fast.
because there was none of that shit that was around. It didn't exist.
I'm sure they had
Bin
insulin.
Laden, though, right?
They
Didn't
didn't eat lunch before they could fight, man.
But
Bin
anyway,
Laden had
that's
he had
why
dialysis? Forget it.
that's why I've come to the theory. That's my theory. Like I said, it's unproven, but all the puzzle pieces are falling in place as to at
You're
least to a
some,
large extent.
you're on some. Come talk to me later. Resident Evil, you know, that's some
Thanks,
umbrella corporation stuff right there.
Thanks. I know it sounds crazy when I first say it. Everyone gets quiet and they're like, "This girl is crazy." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but just wait, just listen." I have a lot to say.
Well,
Yeah, if you can, add me on the Hangouts because I have a friend who, like I said, she person I know.
Okay, yeah, we can talk about this more. And I actually was thinking, because I would love, Josh is talking about Mexico and stuff, and like, I always wanted to have a way to heal people. If I can find a cure or something like that, I would love to just set up a way to
Right. The
heal
other person
people.
just has to be willing to try what you're suggesting.
Exactly, and that's actually kind of hard. You would actually not believe it, but there's a
I
lot of
know.
people.
I know.
I'll do it.
Well, you're not affected, so.
He may be though soon because we don't know what. My other theory about this is that it waits for some kind of chink in your immune system. For me, it was a giant deep depression. I was being fucked over by this guy in India, a guru actually, a Hindu guru of the prime minister. And he was like, big, powerful man over there, saying he was in love with me, he wanted to marry me, and sweet talking me. And when he suddenly dumped me, my heart was just broken because I really liked this guy, and I was already not happy, and I got into such a depression. It was like I felt something break in my body, and then that's when, like, boom, it happened. And Josh said the same thing. So what happened to him was his chink was a big infection he had in his tooth or something, right, Josh?
Yeah, this
It
is
was
my
his,
wisdom.
it was his wisdom tooth. So he got this giant infection, which probably lowered his immune system and gave it a chink. Then suddenly, right after that, he had diabetes. So we don't know what the best thing to do, in my opinion, because in my paranoid conspiracy state that I'm in, I think we are all infected. And syphilis a has a very long dormant stage. It could last 20 years, it could last 40 years until that chink hits you. The best thing to do is to stay as healthy as you can, your immune system as active as you can. Like right now, even if you're not sick, I would try the water keeper, even though I'm afraid of it now. It's super powerful, things that keep your gut healthy. And keep you in a really good immune system state, because then hopefully the chink never hits you.
Are hot peppers good or bad? Because, once upon a time, I couldn't go to the dentist. I mean, this is not related to the diabetes, I suppose, but I went to the dentist, but I had some tooth pain, right? So I had to go to the dentist, but I couldn't see him for like a couple days. And I needed something to make the pain go away because it was like pretty ouch, right?
Yeah.
Everybody on the internet, there was just a couple people that said like, yeah, try this, and then everybody else was trashing them. But I was like, you know what? Screw all you people. I'm going to try it. So I actually tried it. I took some vitamin C, but I took it through the method of just eating a hot pepper, like a bunch of hot peppers. And it actually worked for like a temporary amount of time. And then and I was like, wow, that's interesting. So then I took it a step farther because it came back because it wasn't enough, right? It wasn't enough vitamin C because apparently I had been deficient or something. But then I went and I bought some vitamin C, like straight tablets or something. And I ate like 2 of them. It was like 1,000 milligrams or something. Like I overdosed on it basically on purpose because they said that the worst side effect was you just would get the poops, right?
Yeah.
So I did that, and my goodness, That worked better than any Advil, Tylenol, or anything. Like the pain went
Wow.
away immediately. Like
Oh
I
my
was like,
gosh.
damn! I
I'm
was
gonna
like,
remember
yo,
that.
my
Thanks.
tooth pain
That is
completely
awesome.
annihilated by this vitamin C. So that's where I was like,
That is really cool. I'm definitely gonna remember that. Thank you for that.
yeah, no problem.
And
It-
I
You know
actually,
what I think?
It is
You
true.
know what?
You can try it. It'll work.
well, I'm trying something. I'm trying not using toothpaste for a year. I'm gonna use baking soda instead because I kind of have this weird
You can use.
paranoia
Don't
that
put
the
the fluoride.
sugar. Yeah, I think the toothpaste gives me cavities, and because I would brush religiously, and I would always have cavities. And my brother, who never brushed, he never had a cavity.
You want to go. You want to go conspiracy. I don't. Sometimes it's not just the toothpaste that gives you the cavity, but it's the dentist. Think about it.
Mhm.
Have you ever noticed
Totally.
how
They
the
scratch
orange?
they scratch your teeth with that pick first, right? And all the
Yep.
things I read on fluoride says like the fluoride is good if you don't have chinks in your armor, as it were. But if you do, it causes fluorosis. But they go over your teeth with the pick first, and they scratch the fuck out of your teeth, taking the
Yes, they
enamel
do.
off, which is
Way
the
over.
exact opposite effect of what happens when they give you the fluoride treatment. So they're actually destroying your teeth.
It's like they're opening up those little tiny holes that are there in order for the bad shit to get in. You know,
Exactly. And they're all
like Jibby said. Like Jibby
Yeah,
said, you know,
sugar
it's a whole deal. They say, what do they give you after you go to the dentist?
and
Because, you know,
they're just doing it all willy-nilly because they think that that's actually helping you. Like, I've actually
Right.
argued with dentists. I was like, I do not want your fluoride treatment. They're like, why? But it's good for you.
yeah, right.
And I was like,
Hey,
because I don't want it. Like, I'm paying you, person. Like, stop this. Like, if I don't want it, I don't want it. Like, why are you going to
And
try
then
it?
they look at you like you're fucking,
Stop
like
it.
you're, you know, whatever.
I discovered something that removes fluoride from your body, supposedly reputed, and it's really delicious. It's fresh tamarind,
The
which is
fruit?
just yeah. It
Okay.
when it's dried, I don't like it. It tastes gross. But when it's fresh, it's like I did a funny video tasting it. And I'm like, it looks like poo, but it tastes good. And
Well,
it's
I
just
would. Go ahead. Yeah, it tastes. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't want to.
when it's fresh, it's sticky and it tastes kind of like a berry jam, like a berry jelly or jam.
Right.
It's delicious.
I would expect it if God did create this world, he would have a way, no matter what, of combating whatever evil shit motherfuckers come up with. There's always some counterbalance to it.
He
No
did.
matter
He
what,
totally did.
there's some way you can do it. You might have to figure that shit out first, but
He totally did. I believe that
Water,
there's
air,
Speaking of supplements, and then I gotta
sunlight.
go. Just so you know, we have to be careful and try to figure out which supplements are real because some supplements are fake that they're selling, and I found that out too.
no doubt.
You ever notice how orange, sometimes the fresh orange that you eat can like make your mouth numb or like burn a little bit, like a tingle? Has anyone else ever noticed that?
A fresh orange?
Yeah, if you pay attention. I mean, you do
Yeah.
have to pay attention. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking. Like the acid in that particular
Yes.
was quite strong with that one.
So what's up with
Yep.
that?
And you'll get. I don't know. It's weird. I was just, adding to like what you guys were talking about with the vitamin C.
Yeah,
It
that's
has like a
Spitball.
burning, pepperish, hot type of,
back in the
a
day
little
when they
tingle
got
to it.
oranges. They didn't all have like sun-kissed oranges. They weren't all from like the same